You need to leave now.
Patricia's voice was ice cold. Her perfectly manicured finger pointing toward the street like Shanice was some kind of trash that needed taking out.
Marcus and you nothing.
Patricia cut her off, stepping so close that Shanice could smell her expensive perfume mixed with something bitter. Hatred, maybe. My son is not here to protect you anymore, and without him, you got no business being in my house. Shanice's heart hammered against her ribs.
Evil often wears the face of family. When the innocent are humiliated, heaven takes note. This is the story of what happens next.
Shanice stood in the doorway of the house she'd called home for 3 years, her hand pressed against her swollen belly. 6 months pregnant, tired, confused, and absolutely heartbroken. Marcus had only been gone 2 weeks, 2 weeks on a construction job in Atlanta. He'd be back in a month. They'd talked about it, planned it. He'd kissed her belly and promised everything would be fine. How had everything fallen apart so fast? "Mama Patricia, please." Shanice's voice cracked and she hated how weak she sounded. "I'm carrying your grandchild. Marcus would want. Don't you dare tell me what my son would want." Patricia's face twisted into something ugly. "You trapped him with that baby. Probably not even his, knowing girls like you." The words hit Shanice like a slap. Her eyes burned with tears, but she refused to let them fall. Not yet. Not in front of this woman who'd smiled in her face for 3 years and was now throwing her out like yesterday's garbage. Behind Patricia, Shanice could see Denise, Marcus's younger sister, leaning against the staircase with her phone out, recording everything. A cruel smile played on her lips. "This is going straight to Instagram," Denise said, her voice sing-song and mean. "Broke girl getting kicked out. It's giving homeless and desperate." Shanice's stomach twisted. How had she been so blind? She'd thought they liked her, thought she was family. "I need time to pack," Shanice said, trying to keep her voice steady. "My clothes, my things." "Your things?" Patricia laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Baby girl, everything in this house belongs to me. Those clothes, I bought them. That phone in your pocket, mine. Even that ring on your finger, that was my grandmother's ring that my stupid son gave you without asking." Shanice looked down at the simple gold band on her finger. Marcus had proposed with it on their 1-year anniversary, tears in his eyes as he told her about how much his grandmother meant to him. "Take it off," Patricia demanded. "No," the word came out stronger than Shanice expected. "Marcus gave this to me. It's mine." Patricia's eyes narrowed. For a second, Shanice thought she might actually try to rip it off her finger. But then Patricia smiled, the kind of smile that made Shanice's blood run cold. "Fine, keep it. Pawn it for whatever pennies you can get. You're gonna need it, honey, because you're about to find out what it's really like out there for girls like you. No family, no money, no man, just you and that mistake in your belly." Shanice felt something break inside her chest, not just her heart, something deeper, something that had to do with trust and hope and believing that people were basically good. "Get out," Patricia said one more time. And this time, Shanice turned and walked. She made it 3 blocks before the tears came. Great, heaving sobs that made her whole body shake. She collapsed onto a bus stop bench, her hands gripping her belly, trying to comfort the baby that couldn't possibly understand why its mother was falling apart. Washington, D.C. in March was still cold. Shanice only had on the thin jacket she'd grabbed by the door. Her purse had $43 in it, all the cash she had in the world. Her phone had 10% battery left. She pulled it out with shaking hands and called Marcus. Straight to voicemail. She tried again. Voicemail. 11 more times. Nothing. It was like Marcus had disappeared off the face of the earth. Shanice stared at her phone screen at the picture of her and Marcus from last Christmas. They were laughing, his arms wrapped around her from behind, both of them looking so happy it almost hurt to remember. "What do I do?" she whispered to no one. A woman walking past gave her a concerned look but kept moving. In D.C., Everyone was too busy to stop for a crying pregnant girl on a bench. Shanice scrolled through her contacts. Her parents had died in a car accident when she was 19, 5 years ago. She had an aunt in North Carolina, but they hadn't spoken in years after a fight about money. No siblings. No close friends, really. Patricia had made sure of that, always finding reasons why Shanice couldn't hang out with other people, always keeping her close to home. Isolated. That's what she was. Shanice felt her phone buzz. For a split second, hope flared in her chest. Marcus. But it was just a notification, a Facebook post from Denise. Shanice's thumb hovered over it. She knew she shouldn't look, knew it would only make things worse. She looked anyway. The video was already up. Shanice watched herself on the screen, looking small and defeated, Patricia's voice cutting through. "You need to leave. Now." The comments were already flooding in. OMG, what did she do? Patricia Wright doesn't play about her son. Poor girl looks pregnant too. But there must be a reason. She probably cheated. Girls always trying to trap good men. Shanice closed the app before she could read more. Her hands were shaking so bad she almost dropped the phone. 5% battery left. She needed to think. Needed a plan. But her mind felt like static, just white noise and panic and the overwhelming sense that she was drowning. The baby kicked hard. Shanice pressed her hand against the spot, feeling her child move inside her. Real, alive, depending on her. "I'm gonna figure this out," she whispered. "I promise, baby, Mama's gonna figure this out." But she had no idea how. If you're already feeling the weight of Shanice's situation, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This story is about to take you on a journey you won't believe. Trust me, you need to see what happens next. Shanice spent that first night in a women's shelter on Rhode Island Avenue. The place smelled like industrial cleaner and desperation. Women of all ages crowded into bunks, some with children, some alone. Everyone had a story. Everyone had a reason they'd ended up here. Shanice lay in her assigned bed, staring at the bottom of the bunk above her, listening to a baby crying somewhere down the hall. She pressed both hands against her belly and tried not to think about Patricia's words. Mistake. Her baby wasn't a mistake. Her baby was the only good thing she had left. Morning came too early. Shanice woke to fluorescent lights and the sound of women getting ready, trying to make themselves presentable enough for job interviews or housing appointments or whatever small hope they were chasing that day. Shanice's phone was dead. She'd let it die because she couldn't bear to see if Marcus had called, couldn't bear to see if he hadn't. She borrowed a charger from one of the shelter workers, a kind woman named Brenda who didn't ask too many questions. When the phone finally powered on, Shanice's heart sank. No missed calls from Marcus. But there were 17 missed calls from an unknown number, and 3 voicemails. With trembling fingers, Shanice pressed play on the first message. "Ms. Coleman, this is Janet from Howard University Hospital calling about your prenatal appointment scheduled for today at 2 p.m. We need to confirm." Shanice deleted it. She'd missed the appointment, couldn't afford to go anyway. The second message was from a number she didn't recognize at all. "Shanice, it's Aunt Lorraine." Shanice's breath caught. Aunt Lorraine, her mother's sister, the one she hadn't spoken to in 3 years. I saw what happened online. That video. Baby, I know we haven't been on good terms, but you're still family. If you need a place to stay, I'm in Baltimore now. Call me." Shanice played the message 3 more times, listening to her aunt's voice. Tired, older than she remembered, but real. Offering help. Pride told her not to call back. Pride told her she could handle this on her own. But pride didn't pay for prenatal care. Pride didn't put food in her belly or a roof over her head. Shanice called back. Aunt Lorraine answered on the second ring. "Shanice." "Yes, ma'am." "Oh, baby," Aunt Lorraine's voice broke. "Where are you?" "DC, at a shelter." Silence on the other end. Then, "Pack whatever you've got. I'm coming to get you." Tears streamed down Shanice's face. "Aunt Lorraine, I don't have anything to offer you. No money, no." "Did I ask you for money?" Aunt Lorraine's voice was firm but not unkind. "You're my sister's child. That's all that matters. Text me the address. I'll be there in an hour." The call ended and Shanice sat there on the edge of her bunk, crying for the second time in 24 hours. But this time, the tears felt different. This time, they felt like relief. Aunt Lorraine's car was a beat-up Honda Civic that rattled when it went over 40 miles per hour. She was heavier than Shanice remembered, with gray streaking through her short natural hair and lines around her eyes that spoke of hard years. But when she pulled up to that shelter and saw Shanice standing there with nothing but the clothes on her back and a plastic bag with a toothbrush and one change of underwear the shelter had given her, Aunt Lorraine got out of that car and pulled Shanice into the tightest hug she'd had in years. "I'm sorry," Shanice whispered against her aunt's shoulder. "I'm so sorry about everything." "Hush," Aunt Lorraine pulled back and looked Shanice in the eyes. "We're family. We don't apologize for needing each other." The drive to Baltimore was quiet at first. Shanice stared out the window, watching DC disappear behind them, wondering if she'd ever come back. "That boy ever call you?" Aunt Lorraine finally asked. "No, ma'am." Aunt Lorraine made a disgusted sound in the back of her throat. "Men can't count on half of them when things get hard." "Marcus isn't like that," Shanice said automatically, then felt stupid. Because if Marcus wasn't like that, where was he? Why hadn't he called? Why hadn't he protected her from his mother? "Maybe he's not," Aunt Lorraine said gently. "But right now he's not here, and you are, so we deal with what is, not what we wish things were." Aunt Lorraine lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment in West Baltimore. It was clean but cramped, filled with pictures of Shanice's mother and grandmother, women Shanice hadn't allowed herself to think about in years because the grief was too heavy. "You can have the second bedroom," Aunt Lorraine said, showing Shanice a space that was barely bigger than a closet but had a bed, a dresser, and a window that looked out onto the street. "It's not much, but it's yours." "It's perfect," Shanice said and meant it. That night, over a dinner of baked chicken and rice that Aunt Lorraine insisted on cooking despite Shanice saying she wasn't hungry, her aunt laid out the rules. "You can stay here as long as you need to," Aunt Lorraine said, "but we're not going to sit around feeling sorry for ourselves. You're gonna finish your degree." Shanice looked up surprised. "What? You were 2 semesters away from your business degree at Howard when you moved in with that boy's family, right?" Shanice nodded slowly. She'd been studying business management, dreaming of opening her own event planning company one day. But then Marcus proposed, and Patricia convinced her to take a semester off to focus on family. That semester turned into a year, then 2, then 3. "You're going back," Aunt Lorraine said firmly. "I don't care if you're 8 months pregnant waddling across that campus. You're finishing." "Aunt Lorraine, I can't afford." "I've got some money saved. Not much, but enough. And you can apply for financial aid. Get loans if you have to. But you're not bringing a baby into this world without a degree and a plan." Shanice felt something stir in her chest, something that felt almost like hope. "Besides," Aunt Lorraine continued, a small smile on her face, "you need to show that awful woman and her mean daughter what you're made of. Best revenge is success, baby girl." That night, lying in her new bed with her hand on her belly, Shanice made herself 3 promises. 1, she would finish her degree. 2, she would provide a good life for her baby. 3, she would never, ever let anyone make her feel small again. The next 3 months were the hardest of Shanice's life. She re-enrolled at Howard University with the help of a financial aid counselor who took pity on her situation. Between federal grants, a small scholarship for single mothers, and a loan she probably shouldn't have taken, she cobbled together enough to cover tuition. Aunt Lorraine covered rent and food, refusing to take a dime from Shanice despite Shanice's protests. "You just focus on school and that baby," Aunt Lorraine would say whenever Shanice tried to talk about money. Everything else will work itself out. Shanice attended classes while 7, 8, and finally 9 months pregnant. She endured stares from other students, whispers, the occasional rude comment about welfare queens and baby mamas that made her want to scream. But she kept going. She studied for exams while dealing with swollen ankles and back pain. She wrote papers during false contractions. She gave a presentation on strategic marketing while leaking breast milk through her shirt because her body had decided to prepare early. And still, Marcus never called. Shanice had tried reaching him exactly once more, 2 weeks after moving in with Aunt Lorraine. This time, someone answered. Hello. It wasn't Marcus, it was Patricia. Where's Marcus? Shanice demanded, her voice shaking. Marcus doesn't want to talk to you. Let me speak to him, please. He said everything he needed to say by not being there. Patricia's voice was smug, satisfied. He knows that baby probably isn't his. He knows you were just using him. So do yourself a favor and stop calling. Move on. Find some other fool to trap. The line went dead. Shanice sat there, staring at her phone, feeling something inside her crystallize into something hard and unbreakable. She was done. Done hoping Marcus would come back. Done waiting for him to defend her. Done being the girl who got kicked out and thrown away. From that moment on, Shanice Coleman became someone new, someone focused, someone determined. Someone who refused to fail. Autumn arrived, and with it came Shanice's daughter. Amara Coleman was born on September 15th at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore. 7 pounds, 3 ounces, perfect fingers, perfect toes, eyes that looked up at Shanice with such trust and innocence that Shanice broke down crying right there in the delivery room. Aunt Lorraine was there, holding Shanice's hand through every contraction, every push, every moment of pain that felt like it would tear her apart. You did it, baby, Aunt Lorraine whispered when the nurse finally placed Amara on Shanice's chest. Look at what you did. Shanice looked down at her daughter, and felt something shift in the universe. Every hard thing that had happened, every moment of pain and humiliation and fear, suddenly made sense. Because it had led to this. To her. Hi, Amara, Shanice whispered, her voice thick with tears. I'm your mama. And I promise you, baby girl, I'm gonna give you everything, every single thing I never had. For 3 days, Shanice stayed in that hospital, learning how to nurse, how to change diapers, how to function on 2 hours of sleep. The nurses were kind, showing her what to do, never judging when she cried from exhaustion or frustration or the overwhelming terror of being responsible for another human life. On the 3rd day, a nurse named Carolyn sat on the edge of Shanice's bed, while Amara slept in the bassinet. Where's the father? Carolyn asked gently. Not here, Shanice said flatly. Carolyn nodded like she'd heard that answer 1,000 times. You got family. My aunt. Good, Carolyn squeezed Shanice's hand. Then you're gonna be fine, you know how I know. Shanice shook her head. Because you're still here, still fighting, still trying, that's all a baby needs, a mama who doesn't quit. Those words stayed with Shanice long after she left the hospital. Through the sleepless nights and endless diaper changes. Through the moments when Amara cried for hours and nothing Shanice did seem to help. Through the bone-deep exhaustion that made her wonder if she was strong enough for this. A mama who doesn't quit. So Shanice didn't quit. 2 weeks after Amara was born, Shanice was back in class. She strapped Amara to her chest in a baby carrier and walked into her business ethics lecture like she owned the place. Students stared. The professor, a stern older black woman named Dr. Vivian Marshall, raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Halfway through the lecture, Amara started fussing. Shanice tried everything. Rocking, shushing, nothing worked. The baby's cries got louder and Shanice felt every eye in that classroom turn toward her. Heat flooded her face. She stood up, ready to leave, when Dr. Marshall's voice cut through the room. "Ms. Coleman, sit down." Shanice froze. Dr. Marshall walked down from the podium and stopped right in front of Shanice. For a long moment, she just looked at Amara, who had finally quieted down and was staring up at this new face. "She's beautiful," Dr. Marshall said softly. Then she looked at Shanice. "Do what you need to do. Feed her if she's hungry. Change her if she needs it. Don't let anyone make you feel like you don't belong here." Tears pricked Shanice's eyes. "Thank you." Dr. Marshall nodded and went back to teaching. From that day forward, Dr. Marshall became more than just a professor. She became a mentor. She stayed after class to talk to Shanice about her career goals. She wrote recommendation letters. She introduced Shanice to people in the DC business community who could open doors. "You've got something special," Dr. Marshall told Shanice one afternoon while Amara napped in her carrier. "You've got grit. Can't teach that, can't fake it. You either have it or you don't. And you, Ms. Coleman, have it in spades." Shanice graduated that December, 4 months after giving birth. She walked across that stage with her cap and gown and her degree in business management, and Aunt Lorraine was in the audience with Amara in her arms, both of them crying and cheering so loud that people 3 rows over turned to look. For the first time in a long time, Shanice felt like she'd done something right. But she wasn't done yet. Not even close. The job market in DC was brutal. Shanice applied to over 60 positions in her first 3 months after graduation: marketing coordinator, event planner, executive assistant, anything that would pay enough to support her daughter and pay back Aunt Lorraine for everything she'd done. She got rejection after rejection. "We're looking for someone with more experience. The position has been filled. We'll keep your resume on file. Translation: no." By March, Shanice was starting to panic. Her student loan payments would start soon. She'd saved every penny from her part-time work-study job, but it wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. Then, one afternoon, while Shanice was updating her resume for the 73rd time, her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello. Is this Shanice Coleman?" "Yes, speaking." "This is Rachel Torres from Hartwell and Associates. Dr. Vivian Marshall gave us your name. We have an entry-level position opening up in our corporate consulting division, and we'd like to interview you." Shanice's heart stopped. Hartwell and Associates, one of the top consulting firms in DC, the kind of place that worked with Fortune 500 companies and government agencies, the kind of place that could launch a real career. "Yes," Shanice said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Yes, I'd love to interview." "Wonderful. How does next Tuesday at 10 a.m. sound?" "Perfect." Shanice hung up and immediately called Aunt Lorraine. "I got an interview," she said, her voice shaking. "A real interview at Hartwell and Associates." Aunt Lorraine screamed so loud that Amara woke up crying. Shanice prepared for that interview like her life depended on it. Because it did. She researched the company, memorized their client list, practiced answers to common interview questions in the mirror while Amara played on a blanket at her feet. She bought a suit from a thrift store and had it tailored to fit perfectly. She got her hair done, twists that looked professional and polished. She practiced her handshake, her smile, her eye contact. Tuesday morning arrived. Shanice dropped Amara off with Aunt Lorraine, kissed her baby's forehead, and said a prayer before getting on the metro. "Please God, please let this work out." The Hartwell and Associates office was in a sleek glass building downtown, the kind of place with marble floors and expensive artwork in the lobby. Shanice felt out of place the second she walked in, but she squared her shoulders and walked to the reception desk like she belonged there. "Shanice Coleman, I have a 10 a.m. interview." The receptionist smiled. "Have a seat, someone will be with you shortly." Shanice sat in one of those uncomfortable modern chairs and tried not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. At 10:03, a woman appeared. White, mid-40s, wearing a perfectly tailored pantsuit and an expression that said she didn't have time for nonsense. Ms. Coleman. Yes, ma'am. I'm Rachel Torres, Director of Operations. Follow me. The interview lasted an hour. Rachel asked about Shanice's education, her goals, her experience. She threw hypothetical scenarios at Shanice about how she'd handle difficult clients or tight deadlines. Shanice answered every question honestly, pulling from her experiences at Howard, from the hell she'd survived with Patricia, from the thousand small battles she'd fought just to keep going. At the end, Rachel leaned back in her chair and studied Shanice with an unreadable expression. Can I be honest with you, Ms. Coleman? Shanice's stomach dropped. Here it comes, the rejection. Of course. When Dr. Marshall recommended you, she told me you were someone special, someone who'd been through hell and came out stronger. She said you were a fighter. Rachel paused. I see that now, but I need to know, can you handle this job, because it's demanding. Long hours, high pressure, not a lot of flexibility. Shanice thought about sitting in that shelter with nowhere to go. Thought about studying for finals while 9 months pregnant. Thought about every person who'd told her she wouldn't make it. Ms. Torres, Shanice said, her voice steady and sure, I had a baby by myself. I finished my degree while raising her alone. I've been homeless, broke, and counted out, and I'm still here, still fighting. So yes, ma'am, I can handle whatever you throw at me. Rachel smiled, a real smile this time. You start Monday. Shanice's first day at Hartwell, and associates felt like stepping into a different universe. Everyone moved fast, talked fast, thought fast. The office was all glass walls and open spaces, with junior consultants hurrying between conference rooms and senior partners barking orders into expensive phones. Shanice was assigned to the marketing and brand development team under a woman named Victoria Chen, sharp, efficient, and completely uninterested in small talk. You'll be supporting our client accounts, Victoria explained during Shanice's orientation, barely looking up from her laptop. Research, presentations, meeting prep. Think of yourself as the backbone. Nobody sees you, but without you, everything falls apart. Understood. Good, your first project starts tomorrow. Omega Tech Industries. They're rebranding and they want a full market analysis by Friday. Shanice's eyes widened. This Friday, as in 4 days from now. Victoria finally looked at her. Problem. No, ma'am, no problem. Excellent, welcome to Hartwell. That night, Shanice stayed up until 3 a.m., researching Omega Tech Industries while Amara slept in her crib. She studied their competitors, their market position, their target demographics. She built spreadsheets and charts and a presentation that would have made her Howard professors proud. By Friday, she had a 50-page analysis sitting on Victoria's desk. Victoria read it in silence while Shanice stood there, her heart pounding. Finally, Victoria looked up. This is good work, Coleman. Thank you. Don't let it go to your head. Good is the baseline here. Next time I expect exceptional. But Shanice saw something in Victoria's eyes that looked almost like respect. The first year at Hartwell was brutal. Shanice worked 70-hour weeks, sometimes more. She'd drop Amara off at Aunt Lorraine's at 6 a.m. and pick her up at 9 p.m., exhausted and guilty, wondering if she was being a terrible mother. Stop that, Aunt Lorraine would say every time Shanice apologized. You're building something. That baby knows you love her. That's what matters. But the guilt never fully went away. Still, Shanice kept climbing. She arrived early and stayed late. She volunteered for the projects nobody else wanted. She made herself indispensable. And slowly, people started noticing. Her second year at Hartwell, she got promoted to junior consultant. A small office, a small raise, but it was progress. Her third year, she was lead consultant on 3 major accounts. Companies were specifically requesting her by name. Her fourth year, she was promoted to senior consultant, managing a team of 5 people. "You're on fire, Coleman," Rachel Torres told her during her annual review. "Keep this up, and you'll make partner before you're 35. Shanna smiled, but inside, her thoughts were already racing ahead. Partner wasn't enough. She wanted more. Wanted to prove that the girl who got kicked out pregnant and broken could rise higher than anyone ever expected. During those years, Shanice never forgot what Patricia had done. Never forgot the way Denise had laughed while recording her humiliation. Never forgot how Marcus had disappeared like she'd meant nothing at all. She used that anger like fuel. Every time she wanted to quit, she thought about Patricia's voice. "You're about to find out what it's really like out there for girls like you." "Well, Patricia," Shanice thought, "let me show you exactly what girls like me can do." In her 5th year at Hartwell and Associates, everything changed. The firm landed its biggest contract yet, a full organizational restructuring and management consultation for Wright Enterprises, a family-owned construction and property management company based in D.C. The name made Shanice's stomach drop. Right. It couldn't be. But when she opened the client file and saw the company details, her worst suspicion was confirmed. CEO Patricia Wright. COO Marcus Wright. Shanice sat at her desk, staring at those names, her hands trembling. 5 years. 5 years since that awful day. 5 years since she'd last heard Marcus's voice. And now his family's company was her client. "Coleman," Victoria's voice cut through her thoughts. "Conference room, now. We're assigning the Wright Enterprises team." Shanice stood on shaky legs and walked into the conference room, where the senior partners were already gathered. Rachel Torres stood at the head of the table. "Wright Enterprises is our anchor client for the next fiscal year. This contract could mean millions for the firm, so we're putting our absolute best on it." She paused, looking directly at Shanice. "Coleman, your lead consultant." The room went silent. Shanice felt everyone's eyes on her. She should say something. Should tell them there was a conflict of interest. Should explain that she couldn't possibly work with that family. But then she thought about Amara, about the life she'd built, about every single person who'd counted her out. "Thank you," Shanice said, her voice steady. "I won't let you down." The first meeting with Wright Enterprises was scheduled for the following Monday. Shanice spent the weekend preparing, trying not to think about what it would feel like to see Marcus again after all these years. Would he apologize? Would he ask about their daughter? Would he even recognize her? Shanice looked at herself in the mirror Monday morning. She wasn't the same scared girl who'd been kicked out 5 years ago. Her hair was styled in a professional bob. Her suit was designer, not thrift store. Her makeup was flawless. Her nails were done. She looked successful, powerful, nothing like the broken girl who'd sat on that bus stop bench crying. "You got this, Mama," Amara said from the doorway of the bathroom. At 4.5 years old, she was all long legs and bright eyes and attitude for days. Shanice smiled at her daughter. "I do, don't I?" "Yup, you're the baddest." "Where'd you learn that word?" "Auntie Lorraine." "Of course." Shanice kissed Amara's forehead and headed out. The Wright Enterprises office was in a renovated warehouse in Northeast D.C. Shanice walked in with her team, 3 junior consultants and Victoria as backup, and immediately felt the weight of the moment. This was it. The receptionist led them to a conference room on the 3rd floor. "Mrs. Wright and Mr. Wright will be with you shortly." Shanice sat at the head of the table, arranging her notes, her presentation materials, trying to calm her racing heart. The door opened. And there she was. Patricia Wright walked in like she owned the world. Older now, her hair completely gray, but still wearing that same expression of cold superiority. She was followed by a man in his 30s, Denise's husband, probably, and then Marcus. Shanice's breath caught. He looked different, Older, tired, his once bright eyes looked dull, like life had beaten something important out of him. He wore an expensive suit, but carried himself like the weight of it was too much. Patricia sat down, her eyes scanning the Hartwell team with barely concealed disdain. Then her gaze landed on Shanice. For a moment, nothing happened. Patricia just stared, her face slowly shifting from boredom to confusion to something like recognition. "You," Patricia whispered. Shanice smiled, cool, professional, completely in control. "Good morning, Mrs. Wright. I'm Shanice Coleman, lead consultant from Hartwell and Associates. We're here to discuss your company's organizational restructuring." Marcus's head snapped up, his eyes went wide. "Shanice." The sound of her name in his voice after 5 years felt like a punch to the gut, but Shanice didn't flinch, didn't break, didn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her rattled. "Mr. Wright," she said coolly, "shall we begin? If you're feeling the tension right now, I need you to drop a comment below telling me what you think Shanice should do. Should she keep it professional? Should she confront them? Let me know, and don't forget to like this video and share it with someone who needs to see what real strength looks like." The meeting was the most awkward hour of Shanice's professional life. Patricia kept staring at her like she'd seen a ghost. Marcus looked like he wanted to say something but couldn't figure out what. The other Wright Enterprises employees were confused by the weird tension in the room. Shanice powered through her presentation like none of it mattered. She outlined their findings from the preliminary analysis, pointed out inefficiencies in their management structure, suggested strategic changes that could improve profitability by 30%. She was brilliant, professional, untouchable. When the meeting ended, Patricia stood abruptly. "Mr. Wright and I need to discuss this, privately." "Of course," Rachel Torres said smoothly. "We'll wait for your decision on how to proceed." As the Hartwell team gathered their materials, Marcus moved closer to Shanice. "Can we talk?" His voice was low, urgent. "Please, Shanice, I need to explain." "Mr. Wright," Shanice cut him off, her voice ice cold. "Any communication regarding this project should go through official channels. If you have concerns about our proposal, please email them to my assistant." She handed him a business card and walked out without looking back. In the elevator, Victoria turned to her. "You know them." It wasn't a question. "I used to," Shanice said, "a long time ago." And nothing, they're clients, that's all they are now." Victoria studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Good, keep it that way." That night, Shanice sat on her couch with a glass of wine she didn't drink, staring at nothing. Aunt Lorraine sat beside her. "You okay, baby?" "I saw them today, Patricia, Marcus, all of them. And I survived." Aunt Lorraine put her arm around Shanice's shoulders. "More than survived. You showed them exactly what you're made of." "He wanted to talk to me," Shanice said quietly. "Marcus, he wanted to explain." "What did you say?" "Nothing. What is there to say? It's been 5 years. He made his choice back then. I made mine." "Good." Aunt Lorraine squeezed her shoulder. "Some people don't deserve second chances." But later that night, alone in her bed, Shanice found herself thinking about Marcus's face. The way he'd looked at her, like he was seeing something precious he'd lost and only just realized it was gone. Too little, too late, she told herself. Way too late. The next morning, Shanice arrived at work to find an email waiting for her. From Marcus, Wright at Wright Enterprises, com. To Shanice, Coleman at Hartwell Associates, com. Subject, please read. Shanice, I know I don't have the right to ask anything of you. I know I failed you in every way that matters, but please, give me 5 minutes to explain what happened, to tell you the truth about why I disappeared. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking you to forget. I just need you to know that it wasn't what you think. Please. Marcus. Shanice read the email 3 times, then she deleted it. Whatever Marcus had to say, she didn't need to hear it. That chapter of her life was closed. She'd moved on, built something better, raised a beautiful daughter who didn't need a father who only showed up when it was convenient. She had work to do. Over the next 6 weeks, Shanice's team conducted a full audit of Wright Enterprises. They interviewed employees, analyzed financial records, evaluated management practices. And what they found was damning. The company was hemorrhaging money, poor decision-making at the executive level, nepotism that had put unqualified family members in key positions, a toxic workplace culture that had caused a 70% turnover rate in the past 3 years. In short, Patricia Wright had run her family's company into the ground. Shanice compiled all the findings into a comprehensive report. She laid out exactly what needed to change, who needed to be removed from their positions, and what structural reforms were necessary to save the company. The final recommendation on page 47 was the most critical. Current CEO Patricia Wright lacks the vision and management skills necessary to guide Wright Enterprises into a competitive future. It is strongly recommended that the board of directors appoint new leadership immediately. Shanice stared at those words for a long time before finalizing the report. This was it. This was her moment. She could destroy Patricia Wright's entire world with one presentation. Part of her, the part that still remembered being thrown out while pregnant, the part that remembered Denise's mocking laughter, the part that remembered every cruel word Patricia had said, wanted to do it. Wanted to watch Patricia's face crumble as Shanice laid out all her failures in front of the board. But another part of her, the part that had grown and healed and learned what real strength looked like, wondered if revenge was really what she needed. "What should I do?" Shanice asked Aunt Lorraine that night. They were sitting in the living room, Amara asleep upstairs, the house quiet except for the sound of the TV playing low. "What do you want to do?" Aunt Lorraine asked back. "I want to tell the truth, whatever that means." Aunt Lorraine smiled. "Then that's what you do, baby. You tell the truth and you let God handle the rest." The final presentation was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in late August. The entire Wright Enterprises board of directors would be present, along with Patricia, Marcus, and the other senior staff. Shanice walked into that conference room with her head high, and her presentation loaded and ready. Patricia sat at the far end of the table, her face a mask of barely controlled anxiety. Marcus sat beside her, looking gray and exhausted. The board members, mostly older men in expensive suits, looked bored and impatient. "Ms. Coleman," the board chairman said, "we're ready when you are." Shanice took a breath, then she began. She walked them through everything, the financial losses, the management failures, the employee complaints. She didn't sugarcoat anything, didn't pull punches. Patricia's face got darker with every slide. When Shanice reached the recommendation about replacing the CEO, the room went completely silent. The board chairman leaned forward. "Ms. Coleman, are you seriously suggesting we remove Mrs. Wright from her position?" "I'm not suggesting, sir. I'm recommending. Based on 5 years of declining revenue, rising operational costs, and a workplace culture that has driven away top talent, Wright Enterprises needs new leadership. Immediately." Patricia stood up, her face twisted with rage. "How dare you come in here, you of all people, and tell me how to run my company?" "Mrs. Wright," the chairman started. "No," Patricia pointed a shaking finger at Shanice. "You know who this is. This is the gold-digging little tramp who tried to trap my son with a baby. This is the girl I threw out of my house 5 years ago because she was using him." The room erupted in murmurs. Shanice remained calm. "Mrs. Wright, my personal history with your family has no bearing on the facts presented in this report. Wright Enterprises is failing under your leadership. That's not an opinion. That's measurable reality." "Get out," Patricia hissed. "Get out of my company." The board chairman stood. "Mrs. Wright, sit down now." The authority in his voice made Patricia freeze. Slowly, she sank back into her chair. The chairman turned to Shanice. "Ms. Coleman, thank you for this comprehensive report. The board will take your recommendations under serious advisement." It was a dismissal. Shanice gathered her materials and left the room with her head high. Behind her, she could hear Patricia's voice, shrill and desperate, trying to defend herself. But Shanice didn't look back. 3 days later, Rachel Torres called Shanice into her office. "The board made their decision," Rachel said, a smile playing at her lips. "Patricia Wright has been removed as CEO, effective immediately. They're bringing in an outside executive to run the company." Shanice nodded slowly, trying to process what that meant. "That's not all," Rachel continued. "The board was so impressed with your work that they want Hartwell to continue as their primary consultants. 3-year contract, 7 figures. Shanice's eyes widened. "What?" "And they specifically requested you as the lead." Rachel leaned back in her chair. "You did good, Coleman, real good. The partners are promoting you to director. Your own division, your own team. You've earned it." Director. At 30 years old. A girl who'd been homeless 5 years ago was now a director at one of DC's top firms. Shanice left Rachel's office in a daze. She called Aunt Lorraine from her car. "I got promoted, director level." Aunt Lorraine screamed so loud Shanice had to hold the phone away from her ear. "That's my baby. That's my girl." When Shanice got home that night, she sat on the floor with Amara, holding her daughter close. "Mama, why are you crying?" Amara asked, her small hand touching Shanice's face. "Because I'm happy, baby, because we did it." "Did what?" "We made it, we're gonna be okay." Amara hugged her tight. "I told you, Mama, you're the baddest." 6 months after Patricia Wright was removed as CEO, Shanice stood in her new office on the 8th floor of Hartwell and Associates, looking out at the DC skyline. Director of Strategic Consulting. Her name was on the door. Her team was thriving. Her salary had tripled. Life was good. Better than good. Ms. Coleman, her assistant, a sharp young woman named Kennedy, appeared in the doorway. "You have a visitor. He says it's personal. A Marcus Wright." Shanice's stomach dropped. She'd successfully avoided Marcus for 6 months, hadn't answered his emails, hadn't returned his calls, had made it very clear through every professional channel that she wanted nothing to do with him outside of business. And now he was here. "Tell him I'm not available." "I did. He said he'll wait. He's been in the lobby for 2 hours." Shanice closed her eyes. Of course he had. "Fine, 5 minutes. Conference room 3. Marcus looked terrible. His suit was wrinkled like he'd slept in it. His eyes were bloodshot. He'd lost weight, and not in a good way, more like stress and sleepless nights had carved him down to nothing. "Thank you for seeing me," he said when Shanice walked in. She didn't sit, just stood by the door with her arms crossed. "You have 5 minutes. I need to explain what happened, back then, why I never came back." "Marcus, I don't." "Please," his voice cracked. "Please just listen. Then if you never want to see me again, I'll respect that, but you deserve to know the truth." Something in his desperation made Shanice pause. Against her better judgment, she sat down. 4 minutes left. Marcus took a shaky breath. "When I left for that construction job in Atlanta, my mother called me 3 days later. She said you cheated on me. Said she had proof, photos, messages, everything. Said the baby wasn't mine." Shanice felt ice flood her veins. "What?" "She sent me fake text messages. Photoshopped pictures of you with some guy I didn't recognize, made it look real, made it look like you'd been using me the whole time." Marcus's hands were shaking. "I was 24, stupid. I believed her. I was so angry, so hurt, I blocked your number, blocked everything. Came home a week later and you were already gone." You believed her, Shanna said quietly. You believed I would do that to you. I was an idiot, I know that now. When did you find out the truth? Marcus looked down at his hands. 3 years ago, I found my mother's laptop open to an email from some private investigator she'd hired. She'd paid him $5,000 to create fake evidence that you were cheating. There was a whole folder, all the photoshopped images, the fake text threads, everything. 3 years. He'd known for 3 years and never reached out. And you're telling me this now, 3 years later. I tried, Marcus's voice rose, desperate. I tried to find you, called your old numbers disconnected, went to your aunt's old address, she'd moved, checked Facebook, Instagram, everything, you weren't on social media. I searched for 2 years, Shanice, 2 years with no luck. And then when you walked into that conference room 6 months ago. He trailed off. Shanice stood up, time's up. Wait, please, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I failed you in every possible way, but I need to know, his voice broke. The baby, did you? Is there a... Her name is Amara, Shanice said coldly. She's 4 years old, she's smart and beautiful and perfect, and she's none of your business. Shanice, she's my daughter. No, the word came out like a whip crack. A daughter needs a father, you're just the man whose DNA she has. There's a difference. Marcus looked like she'd physically struck him. I want to make this right. I want to be in her life. I want to. What you want stopped mattering 5 years ago when you chose to believe your mother's lies instead of trusting me, when you blocked my number and moved on with your life while I was homeless and pregnant. Shanice moved toward the door. I survived without you. We both did, and we don't need you now. She opened the door. Please, Marcus whispered. Please don't shut me out. I love you. I never stopped loving you. Shanice turned back, and for the first time since entering the room, she let him see her anger. You don't know what love is. Love doesn't disappear the second things get hard. Love doesn't believe lies without asking questions. Love doesn't abandon someone when they need you most. She paused. I loved you once, Marcus, but that girl died the day your mother kicked her out and you did nothing to stop it. She walked out and didn't look back. That night, Shanice told Aunt Lorraine everything. They sat in the kitchen drinking tea while Amara played in the living room, blissfully unaware of the complicated adult drama swirling around her. What are you going to do? Aunt Lorraine asked. Nothing. I'm not going to do anything. Baby, he's her father. Biologically, maybe, but that's it. Shanice set down her cup. Amara has never asked about him. She's happy. She's stable. Why would I disrupt that now just because he suddenly feels guilty? And if she asks one day, if she wants to know him, then we'll deal with it then, but on our terms, not his. Aunt Lorraine nodded slowly. Just make sure you're not making this decision out of anger. Make sure you're making it out of wisdom. Those words stayed with Shanice for days. Was she being wise, or was she being vindictive? She honestly didn't know. 2 weeks later, Shanice received a package at her office. Inside was a thick envelope with a letter and several legal documents. The letter was from Marcus. Shanice, I'm not going to bother you anymore. You've made your position clear and I respect that. But I need you to know that I've set up a trust fund for Amara, fully funded, for her education, her future, whatever she needs. It's in her name. You'll have full control until she's 18. I'm also signing away any legal rights to custody or visitation. I won't fight you in court. Won't make this messy. The documents are attached. All they need is your signature. I'm doing this because you're right. I don't deserve to be in her life. I don't deserve your forgiveness. But she deserves everything, and this is the only way I know how to provide it without causing more pain. Tell her if you ever choose to that her father was sorry, that he was stupid and weak and made terrible mistakes, but that he loved her, even if he never got the chance to show it. I'm sorry, Shanice, for everything. Marcus. Shanice read the letter 3 times, Then she looked at the legal documents, the trust fund paperwork, the voluntary termination of parental rights. He was giving up everything. No fight, no custody battle, just surrender. Part of her felt vindicated. This was what she wanted, wasn't it? For him to leave them alone. But another part of her, the part that had loved him once, felt an unexpected pang of sadness. Not for her, for Amara. For the father she'd never know. Shanna signed the documents, but she didn't send them back, not yet. She needed to think. The next morning, Shanice woke to her phone ringing. Unknown number. Hello? Is this Shanice Coleman? A woman's voice, professional, slightly familiar. Yes, who's this? My name is Charlotte Bennett. I'm a board member of Wright Enterprises. I'm calling because we have a proposition for you. Shanice sat up straighter. What kind of proposition? We've been searching for a new CEO for the past 6 months. We've interviewed over 30 candidates. None of them understand the company the way you do. None of them have your insight, your vision, your understanding of what we need. Charlotte paused. Ms. Coleman, we want to offer you the position, CEO of Wright Enterprises. The room tilted. I'm sorry, what? We know it's unconventional. We know your history with the Wright family makes this complicated, but you've proven yourself to be exactly what this company needs. The board voted unanimously. The job is yours if you want it. CEO of the company owned by the family that destroyed her. The irony was almost too perfect. Can I think about it? Shanice asked. Of course, we'll need an answer within 2 weeks. The call ended. Shanice sat there stunned, her mind racing with possibilities. This is it, people. The moment everything comes full circle. Drop a comment right now telling me what Shanice should do. Should she take the job? Should she walk away? Let me know what you think and make sure you stay until the end because you need to hear the lesson this story teaches. Shanice spent the next 3 days in turmoil. CEO of Wright Enterprises, the ultimate revenge, walking into Patricia's former office, sitting in her chair, running her company better than she ever could. It was everything the broken girl from 5 years ago would have dreamed about. But was it what the woman she'd become actually wanted? What does your gut tell you? Aunt Lorraine asked over dinner. My gut says it would feel really good to rub Patricia's face in it. And your heart? That was harder to answer. I don't know, Shanice admitted. Part of me wants it, wants to prove I can do it, but another part wonders if I'm just chasing revenge instead of peace. Only you can answer that, baby. That night after Amara went to bed, Shanice pulled out the legal documents Marcus had sent. The trust fund, the termination of rights. She thought about Patricia, who destroyed her son's relationship because of pride and prejudice. She thought about Marcus, who believed lies instead of fighting for the truth. She thought about Denise, who'd recorded Shanice's lowest moment for entertainment. And she thought about herself, the girl who'd survived, who'd built something beautiful from the ashes, who'd proven everyone wrong. Did she need revenge? Or had she already won? The next morning, Shanice called Charlotte Bennett. Ms. Bennett, thank you for the offer. It's incredibly generous, but I have to decline. Silence on the other end. Then, may I ask why? Because I've already built something I'm proud of. I have a team that respects me, a position I earned, and a future that's mine. Wright Enterprises would be a step sideways, not forward, and I'm done looking back. I understand that's actually the most professional answer I could have hoped for. Charlotte sounded almost relieved. Can I ask a favor? What? Would you be willing to recommend someone for the position? Someone you trust? Shanice thought for a moment, then smiled. Actually, yes, I have someone in mind. 3 weeks later, Shanice sat in a coffee shop in Georgetown waiting. Patricia Wright walked in, looking older and smaller than Shanice remembered. She spotted Shanice and froze. For a moment, neither woman moved. Then Patricia walked over and sat down. "You called," Patricia said. Her voice was different, quieter, stripped of its old arrogance. "I did." Silence stretched between them. "I'm sorry," Patricia finally said, "for everything I did to you, the lies I told, the way I treated you. You didn't deserve it." "No, I didn't. My son told me everything about the fake evidence, about how he tried to find you." Patricia's hands trembled on the table. "I destroyed his happiness because I was arrogant and prejudiced and scared, and I destroyed yours. I'm so sorry, Shanice." Shanice studied the woman across from her. Patricia looked broken, defeated, nothing like the powerful, cruel woman who'd thrown her out 5 years ago. "Why did you do it?" Shanice asked. "Why did you hate me so much?" Patricia was quiet for a long time. "Because you reminded me of myself, when I was young and broke and desperate, before I married Richard, before I had money and status and control." She looked down. "I hated that girl I used to be, so I hated you too, and I'm sorry for that, so deeply sorry." Shanice felt something loosen in her chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. "Your company offered me the CEO position," Shanice said. Patricia's eyes widened. "What?" "I turned it down, but I recommended someone else. Someone I think can actually fix what you broke." "Who?" "Marcus." Patricia looked shocked. "My son. He knows the business. He cares about the legacy, and he needs something to focus on besides his guilt." Shanice leaned forward. "But here's the deal. He only gets the job if you stay out of his way. No interference. No sabotage. You let him lead, or the board will replace him with someone who doesn't care about the right name at all." "Done," Patricia said immediately. "Anything, I'll do anything." Shanice nodded. She reached into her bag and pulled out the legal documents Marcus had sent. The termination of parental rights. "I'm not signing these," Shanice said. Patricia looked confused. "Marcus can be part of his daughter's life, but on my terms, supervised visits, no overnight stays, and only if Amara wants to see him." Shanice's voice was firm. "She deserves the chance to know her father, but if he ever hurts her or lets her down, he's done. Permanently. Understand?" "Thank you," Patricia whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you for giving him a chance he doesn't deserve." "I'm not doing it for him, or for you. I'm doing it for my daughter, because she deserves every opportunity to be loved." Shanice stood up. "And because I'm not going to let your mistakes define my choices." She left Patricia sitting there crying. And for the first time in 5 years, Shanice felt truly free. 6 months later, Shanice sat in Rock Creek Park, watching Amara play on the swings. Marcus sat beside her, awkward and careful, like he was afraid one wrong move would make her change her mind. "Say hi to your dad, baby," Shanice called. Amara waved enthusiastically. "Hi, Daddy." The word still felt strange, but Amara had taken to Marcus surprisingly well during their supervised visits. She liked that he was tall, liked that he brought her books, liked that he listened when she talked about her day at kindergarten. "She's amazing," Marcus said quietly, "just like you." "She's better than me," Shanice corrected. "She's growing up with love and stability. That's all that matters." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. "I got engaged," Marcus said suddenly. Shanice looked at him surprised. "Really?" "Her name's Jennifer. She's a teacher. She's really kind, patient. She knows about everything. About you, Amara, my mother's lies, all of it, and she still wants to be with me." "That's good," Shanice said and meant it. "You deserve happiness, Marcus. We all do." "So do you," Marcus said. "Are you seeing anyone?" Shanice smiled. "Maybe. There's a lawyer at my firm who keeps asking me to dinner. I keep saying no, but I'm thinking about saying yes." "You should. You deserve someone who sees how incredible you are." "I know," Shanice said simply, because she did know. Finally, after all these years, she knew her worth. They watched Amara play. And for the first time since everything fell apart 5 years ago, Shanice felt genuinely at peace. That evening, Shanice sat with Aunt Lorraine on the porch of her new house, a beautiful 3-bedroom in Silver Spring that she'd bought with her director's salary. Amara was inside watching cartoons. Marcus had left after promising to come to Amara's school play next week. "You did good, baby," Aunt Lorraine said. "Real good. I just wanted to do right by Amara." "You did right by everyone, including yourself." Aunt Lorraine squeezed her hand. "Your mama would be so proud of you." Shanice felt tears prick her eyes. "You think so?" "I know so." They sat there as the sun set over D.C., the city where Shanice had lost everything and rebuilt herself into something stronger. "Aunt Lorraine," Shanice said quietly. "Yes, baby. Thank you for everything, for saving me when I had nothing, for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself, for giving me a chance to become who I was meant to be." Aunt Lorraine pulled her close. "You saved yourself, Shanice. I just gave you a place to do it." The moral of this story: life will test you, people will underestimate you, some will try to break you. But here's what Shanice learned, and what we all need to remember. Your value doesn't come from what others think of you. It comes from what you know about yourself. The people who try to destroy you are often fighting their own demons. Hurt people. That doesn't excuse their behavior, but understanding it can free you from the burden of their hatred. Revenge might feel satisfying, but peace feels better. Shanice could have destroyed Patricia, could have refused to let Marcus see his daughter, could have spent her life bitter and angry. Instead, she chose to rise above, to build instead of destroy, to forgive without forgetting, to protect her peace above all else. Success is the best revenge, yes, but success without bitterness, that's the ultimate victory. Your lowest moment is not your final destination. It's just a chapter, a really hard chapter, but not the whole story. Shanice went from homeless and pregnant to director of strategic consulting. She went from broken to whole, from victim to victor. And so can you. Whatever you're facing right now, whatever person is trying to diminish you, whatever circumstance is crushing you, whatever mountain looks too high to climb, remember Shanice's story. Remember that the girl who got kicked out came back as the boss. Not because she was lucky, but because she refused to quit. I hope this story inspired you, encouraged you, or reminded you of your own strength. If it did, please hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to this channel for more powerful stories like this one. Drop a comment telling me what lesson you took from Shanice's story. And remember, your story isn't over. Keep fighting, keep rising, keep showing the world what you're made of. I'll see you in the next video.